Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Vernon with Faith Bridge and Fast 15. I had to jump on today because I'm reflecting about our awesome interview that we had yesterday with Principal Kimberly Grayson and her scholars from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Early College. They are the host of the podcast No Justice, No Peace. So KNOW Justice, KNOW Peace. And what a wonderful time of engagement, a quick conversation with them just to hear a little bit about the story and their journey to where they are now, transforming the landscape of curriculum in Denver Public Schools. And one of the things that stood out that I just had to put in our Fast 15 today was the question that the students were able to ask of Principal Grayson. Here they were in Washington, D.C., at the African American History Museum, and they looked at Principal Grayson and they said, yo, literally, yo, like what, why aren't we doing this? Why doesn't our school look like this? They looked at her as a leader of color, as a principal of color, and they knew the demographics of their school and they challenged and said, why doesn't it look like this at our school? Right. And so yesterday's conversation was just powerful for me for a couple of reasons. One, the students are just off the chain. They are just off the chain, unbelievable, off the chain, just beautiful, right? And they're brilliant. Just amazing, just amazing. And Principal Grayson was and is amazing as well. I loved her response that she said that after 24 years in education, she's still learning. After 24 years of education, she's still listening, right? She hears, that she's not stuck in the box, right? And DMLK is an innovation school, which is very important that folks understand this. Is like there's schools within the district that have what they call innovation status, which allows them, as I put it, to be free from some of the bureaucracy that keeps us stuck in educational mediocrity, right? That keeps us stuck in the same cycles of we've always done it this way, the same cycles of we've always used this curriculum, the same cycles of we've always had this calendar, we've always had to use our money this way, right? So innovation frees schools from some of that um, entrenched or mediocrity, right? That's what I want to say. It's this entrenched mediocrity. And so when these students were sitting in DC with Principal Grayson, they were like, blown away by what they had seen, blown away by um, what was going on with their school, and they were excited about the fact that they had a leader who they believed that they could do something about it, right? And that's the power of the innovation school. And so we want to acknowledge that DMLK had this innovation status and was able to come back and began immediately to deal with the curriculum things at home, right? They began to deal with the curriculum things at home, to say, look, we want to see this innovation, we want to see these changes um, within our district, but let's change it at home first. So they leveraged their innovation status to begin this work. And from what you heard yesterday from our interview, teachers traveled to the African American History Museum, and they went through the same experience that the students went through. They learned some things, and they came back and they immediately began to change their own scope and sequence. And so we are excited to see that, right? And so the question that stuck with me is that the young people said yesterday was, why aren't we doing this, right? Why aren't we doing this? And so the work that we do at Faith Bridges, we believe that 100% of kids should be going to great schools that ready them for the choice of college without remediation, right? That means we've got to be innovative. That means we can't continue to do things the same way that we've always done them, right? We've got to be able to think outside the box. We've got to be able to say, this isn't working, right? And if it's not working, what will work, right? And we've got to be able to collaborate with other schools, with other businesses, with other community partners, with our district, right? And everything that we talk about with innovation that happened in this moment for these students to be able to get to the place where they feel like the curriculum is going to be transformed in DPS are all the things that are necessary for us to be innovative, right? It is not. It is status quo for us to be siloed. It is status quo for us to continue to operate as if educational mountains can be climbed alone, or that educational gaps or opportunity gaps can be closed alone. They can't be, right? It took these kids going to Washington, D.C. to see something that they had never seen before, to open their eyes to say things need to be different back home, right? And so we've always believed this. There, when we worked at Manual High School, we had this value that vision through awareness, right? We believe that vision and awareness were just connected, right? That the more your awareness of the world around you, the more your awareness grew about the possibilities or what's out there, your vision shifted, right? And so these young ladies, and the students that all that went on this powerful learning excursion to DC with Principal Grayson, they came back with a testimony that yes, when we became more aware of who we were, when we became more aware of our history, when we became more aware of what was available to us, it changed our vision, right? It changed our view of what is possible, right? And that's what I believe has been the detrimental thing in education, right? And not just education, it is baked into the system, right? It is baked into the structures and systems that will keep certain kids, certain neighborhoods, isolated from opportunity, and I dare say isolated from hope, and isolated from greater awareness, right? And so when you break down those that isolation of awareness, that isolation from hope, when you break that down, it is amazing how these young people um began to dream big. And then they come back and they ask a principal, hey, why aren't we doing this? Right? Why aren't we telling these stories? Why is this not embedded in our curriculum? Why is this not a part of the narrative that we hear every day in a school that is full of leaders that look like us, right? In a school where we should be, right, focused on these things, right? And I loved it that they yesterday really they touched my heart, because they said this is not just about black kids and brown kids, and um, it's not about that. It is about all kids understanding the full story of history, understanding the total story of history. And so it is great for us to be able um, to stand with schools like that, to be able to stand with to stand with school leaders and scholars who are deciding that, hey, we want to think outside the box. We don't want to be stuck in the same cycle of educational mediocrity, right? And I think every leader has to answer that same question that Principal Grayson answered, right? Every last one of us who have the opportunity to lead and to help drive and to help guide systems and structures within education, and within not just education, but with all the systems and structures, right? When these young people come back to us and they have vision because their awareness has just been like, right? And now they have a renewed hope, and they have this new optimism, right? And they come to us as the adults and they say, hey, let's do this, let's go this way, because we believe this to be an opportunity for us to close some of those opportunity gaps. This is a way for us. I loved one of the young ladies, Alana, said yesterday, this is a way for us to affirm that we are more than enough. This is a way to inspire young people to say, hey, this is why you can chase that dream. This is why you can accomplish that goal. This is why you can become whatever it is you desire to become, because you come from a history of overcomers. You come from a history of inventors. You come from a history of doctors and lawyers and teachers and transportation folks and food workers. You come from a history of all these people who have done great things. And it's when you hear it, as the young people said yesterday, it changes your mind. It changes your outlook. And so we're just grateful. I had to create this fast 15 today just so we could talk about the fact that what a powerful interview, what a powerful time yesterday with the young people from the MLK, right? Just amazing, just amazing. And we have to continue to support what they are doing. We have to continue to be about be about getting in that good trouble, that necessary trouble with them. I'm going to put in the comments just again, just to promote some of the work that they're doing, that we are very proud of. I'm going to put the link to their podcast in the comments. So please go and see and listen to the No Justice, No Peace podcast. We are just again, we're just moved and just excited about what these young people are doing, and how they're leading, and how they're calling us adults out to say, hey, aren't you in a position where you can do something about this? Right? Don't you have some level of authority? Don't we have some level of autonomy to where we can do something about it? Right? And I want every leader to hear that. Right? We can't sit on our behind and just allow the status quo to be the reality in education, or in how we support kids through violence prevention, or how we support kids in rec centers, or how we make sure that families are fed. Man, we can't do things as we've always done them. These young people are telling us, you've got to innovate. You've got to innovate. You've got to think differently. You've got to expand even your own awareness, right? You can't stop. And I love, again, what Grayson said. Even if you've been in this 24 years, even if you've been in this 30 years, if you stop learning, you stop being valuable to the ecosystem, right? So you've got to keep learning. You've got to keep reading. You got to keep exposing yourself to other ways to get it done, especially when we see that the way we are doing things is not accomplishing it. So again, I just want to applaud the scholars at DMLK. I want to applaud the leadership at DMLK and thank them again for coming on to our Faith Bridge Education Conversation Circles yesterday. Was a great time. Really inspired me. Really refocused me again on the fact that we've got to be in this for the right reasons, right? We got to be in this for the right reasons. We got to be willing as adults to become uncomfortable. And man, I appreciate that about Grayson and her staff. Like, there was no pushback, right? There was like, kids, this is how it is, and this is how it's going to be. No, they heard the voices of their students. They heard the voices of their students, and the adults became uncomfortable, right? The adults began to put in more hours. The adults became, you know, focused on being intentional with their scope and sequences. The adults said, hey, the world needs to change. The world needs to transform, and we're going to use my classroom as a catalyst. We're going to use the content of these courses as a catalyst, right? And they didn't back down. They didn't say, man, I that's not what I was taught to teach, right? That's not what my teacher prep program told me is, you know, scholarly work. That right? They didn't push back. They said, you know what? These young people are speaking, and these young people have been exposed um, to truth and history that has been withheld. And when they saw it, God, well, look at how they transformed. Look at how excited they were. And so, how can we deny them that? So, I again want to um, echo that this needs to be a question that we all answer. It needs to be a question that we all answer, whatever our role is as adults in the lives of young people. We need to answer that same question that Principal Grayson answered when her kids said to her, why aren't we doing this? Right? We need to hear kids saying that to us right now. Why aren't the rec centers open when you know that we need alternatives? Why aren't you guys exposing us to more opportunities like this that will lift us up and help us to be more optimistic and have greater vision? Why aren't, right? We can go on. Why aren't we, if we can feed people like this, why aren't we doing this on a regular basis? If we can help people who are struggling in poverty with whatever, why aren't we doing that? Right? We need to answer that question. And when that question is answered with because we're stuck in mediocrity, or we placed adult agendas before kid agendas, then we have to change, right? And so, in this Fast 15 for Faith Bridge, we want to just applaud again DMLK. We want to applaud the scholars. We want to applaud the leaders, especially the leaders today, right? Because these scholars, man, they on fire. They changing the world. But let me tell you what I know about us as adults. When you've been in something for any length of time, you can get stubborn and you can get stuck in your ways, and you can just say, hey, these kids is going to be gone in 2-3 years anyways, so we ain't going to stretch ourselves. But I want to applaud DMLK for stretching themselves. I want to applaud DMLK staff for saying how it is isn't how it's got to be. So thank you for joining us today on Faith Bridges Fast 15 as we shout out again the students and the leaders at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Early College in Denver, Colorado. All right. Have a great afternoon.